edition of the Contractors Secret Weapon weekly podcast with your hosts, Dave Negri. This program is dedicated to helping contractors, remodelers, painters, roofers, roof cleaners, and business owners in the construction industry gain an unfair advantage over the competition. This program supplies you with information that the competition doesn't even know exists. This session brought to you by ContractorsSecretWeapon.com.
Before we get into the conversation with you, I just want to do a shout out to our sponsors who help promote Contractors Secret Weapon and just some of the things that they have in store for you, our listeners. Hey, is your phone ringing enough? Do you want it to ring more with highly motivated and qualified buyers that contact you, the contractor, directly? No more waiting for the phone to ring. Just answer that phone. Best Home Services leads are dedicated to making your phone ring with motivated buyers that call you directly. There's no obligation to talk with them. Just go to ContractorsSecretWeapon.com/money. Fill out the form to secure your discount on the setup fee. Do it today. This special will not last forever. Check them out at ContractorsSecretWeapon.com/money.
Running a small business is no easy task, and I should know because I had a service company for almost 10 years. I am the founder of a software called Radius Bomb, and it's unbelievable. And for all the listeners of Contractor's Secret Weapon, we have a special offer for you to check out. If you want to send hyper-targeted, laser-focused, super personalized postcards to your exact prospects using a map while sitting in your underwear, then go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb, and we'll give you your first 100 postcards for free. Just go to ContractorSecretWeapon.com/Radius Bomb.
Hey, Dave Negri here with Contractors Secret Weapon. Today I want to talk about some fun stuff with you. A lot of times I do have fun. Most of the time I have fun. But today is really going to be a fun topic because it's going to talk about some of the things that most of you guys talk about all the time but are really afraid to do, and that's raise prices. So today I want to talk about when is the best time to raise prices, and I want to tell you all the time, whenever you can. But let's talk about it systematically, okay? So I'm a firm believer that most of the time our prices are too low. Now, there are some guys out there that just rip people off and jack people up, and so we're not going to go there. We're going to talk about getting your best price that you can get, and to continually raise your prices until you hit a resistance point. Like, let's say I want to talk about Disney World. You know, they have a tendency to raise their prices and continually raise them systematically until there's a resistance. And when there's a resistance, they stop. And then their ticket sales will start rising again. And then once they get them to where they want them, then they'll start raising their prices again. So that's really what I want to talk about. Your value to raise your prices, because most of the time, every contractor I see is cheap. For the most part. I mean, you're talking about the majority. And I want to get you out of that realm, of that thinking of, but I want you to be able to raise your prices. And I'm a firm believer that if you went tomorrow, raise your prices by 10%, none of your customers would ever notice the difference. So rule number one, tomorrow is the day to raise your prices. Raise them by 10%. And I know a lot of you guys are saying right now, oh, they're going to complain. Listen, if they complain, they don't understand that your insurance has gone up, maybe gas has gone up, and a lot of other things that have gone up systematically. Your supplies have gone up. Then they really don't understand what it takes to run a business. And listen, they've been your customer for a long time, and they don't understand this. Guess what? You don't need them as a customer because you're supposed to be doing this for a profit, not for fun. Listen, here, let's take this for example. The other day I go running through McDonald's and I go to pick up a cup of coffee and I think it was a sausage burrito. Now, when they came out, sausage burritos in my area were $1. You know, I'd do the dollar menu and then get coffee. And so the other day, not too long ago, I go in and it's like $1.39, $1.49. I forget what it was, but it was like it jumped 50%. And guess what? Nobody complained. and everyone's still buying sausage burritos. So my thought to you is, or my question to you is, what's it going to take for you to raise your prices so that you can be profitable? And then that's really what it comes down to, is being profitable in the marketplace. So let's go over a couple of things, and we'll just talk about them briefly. Okay, so here's something that would really scare the crap out of you. Dan Kennedy, who's one of my mentors, I read all of his stuff and implement a lot of his things in my business, and he says that what you need to do is raise your prices by 50%. That's a great philosophy, but it will scare the crap out of most of us because we'd be afraid of losing half of our business. Now, what would really happen if we lost half of our business and we raised our prices? We'd be making the same amount of money with less clients, and wouldn't that be a cool thing? But we're all afraid to do that. So just do it in small increments. Okay, just small increments.
Okay, so going back to the McDonald's scenario where they ran up 49 or 50% in their pricing, do you think they made more profit? Well, absolutely. Do you think they slowed down on their burrito sales? They may have, but if they slowed down 20%, what? They're still making more profit. If they slow down 10%, they're still making more profit. But for the most part, it's not going to happen. So another great time to raise prices is really when you're busy. So why would you want to do that? Well, you're busy, you've got things scheduled out, you don't really care so much, depends on who you are, about, filling in that gap, because the gap's already filled. Your pipeline's already filled with work, so you can raise your prices. Raise it for elasticity to see how far you can go before, they'll say no. And if they say no, then in the next one, bring it down a little. You get to play with it when you're busy. But here's the exciting thing here's what I want you to think about. If you're really afraid to raise your prices, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about how important it is for you to be profitable in your business, to pay for the things that you've always wanted, to pay for your family. And so I'm just going to put this in a perspective, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, and I really don't care. Is it more important for you to supply the necessary needs for your family, or are you going to try to make your customers happy by giving them cheap prices? You have to answer that. But I'm going to say, listen, you don't want to be a commodity, and that's really what this is all about. You're raising your prices so you're no longer a commodity. So if you're doing proposals, if you're doing estimates by price only, stop it. You've got to give value. So how do we give value in this whole context? Well, if someone says, I want a price for painting. So a lot of guys I've seen guys write painting proposal on a card. Or they'll just say, well, we're going to paint the interior of your house, this room, this room, this room, for X amount of dollars, or even pressure cleaning, we're going to do this, 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 and this. But I want you to think about, and here's where the real value comes in. I think this is one of the things that I do, and it helps me become more of the professional and less of the commodity, because I give them a complete breakdown of what I'm doing, of how it's going to get done, the process is going to go through. And, most one guy's proposals are 1 page. Mine can be 10 or 12 pages, depending on what we're doing, because I put so much stuff in there that I sort of kill them with professionalism, knowing, honestly, I know you're saying, well, they're not going to read all that stuff. I know they're not going to read all that stuff, but here's the important thing. Because you have all that stuff there, they're going to say, wow, this guy has a lot of stuff. And the guy who gives them 1 page say, this guy is not very professional. So here, let's go into the process of the proposal and the pricing. So I'm a firm believer in giving, 3-part proposal, good, better, and best, or high, medium, and low. And then do it in that order. You want to do a high, medium, and low, not low, medium, and high. And for the most part, most people will go towards the middle. But when you do I'm gonna pick on myself for the most part for painting proposals. So let's just say that I have someone who wants the interior painted on their house. And so we're going to go through and we're going to line item everything. We're going to put the painting for the ceiling, the painting for the trim work, and that broken out towards doors and casings, and then another one for baseboard, and then another one for crown molding, and then another one for miscellaneous if they have additional work, and then I have one for walls only, and then closets, and then I do a breakdown of the prep work that we're going to do to go through the covering of the furniture, the taking off of the switch plates, all the work that needs to be done to have this make a complete project. See, it's not just painting. See, a lot of guys think, well, I'm going into paint. No, you're not going into paint. You're going in to create, and it's not really an illusion, you're going to create the facade. It's really not even a facade. You're going to create this system of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7. And why are you going to do that? Because this is where the value is. The value is putting together the process so that when the customer looks at this painting of walls throughout the house. Well, if some of you guys don't know this, the wall space is about 2.5 times that of the square footage space. So let's, for the fun of it, just say you have a 1,000 square foot house. You're going to paint 2,500 square foot of wall space 2 times, not 2 coats of paint. Do you see where I'm going? You're going to the extremes, so they're going to look at it and they're going to say, wow, I don't want to do this amount of work, and I'll do it myself. This is where the real value is. And if they don't want to pay the price, that's fine, but you've created value there, and the profits in the profits. So, I was looking at, here's a funny thing. The other day I was looking at a proposal of a guy for putting in a floor. They put in a proposal, and in the proposal they put in ripping up the old floor. But not only, then they put in a square foot price of covering everything with plastic. Who would have thunk that floor guy's going to charge you to cover it with plastic? Because you're thinking, well, he's going to just install a floor. Well, no, because they had to do leveling, so there was so much for leveling, and then so he did this in the same. So the customer's going to say, man, I could not do that. So I would be willing to pay someone to come in and do that, and this is where the customer sees the value of the price, because a lot of times it's not just the price. Granted, there are some people that shop by price, but really, when you're dealing with I'm going to say most people, they're looking at price as number 4 or 5. The main reason they look at price is to see if they're getting the value for the price that you're charging. So that's why I always go into infinite detail when I'm doing proposal. I put in, repairs, wood repairs, replacement, all kinds of things, so that they know that when I'm doing it, that I'm going to be professional about it. I'm going to cover the furniture. I'm going to take the switch plates off, and then and actually I can even give them a price for not moving the furniture if they want to. Then when they come and say, gee, this is a lot more than I expected, I can look and say, okay, what don't you want taken care of? See, that takes out of their mind the thing of discounts, because you're saying, what don't you want done in this proposal? And they're thinking, well, if I say I was higher than I expected, they're thinking that, oh, he's going for the discount. No, I don't do discounts, because I don't like giving money away. I would rather not do something. We can cut out. I had one customer once who just said, oh, I never thought about that. And I said, well, this is something that you don't need done, but you asked to have done. Should we take that out? Yes. Oh, I can live with that price. See, it's defining what the customer wants, giving them the value for what they want. And now you can get the price by doing that, because you've raised your price to be profitable. Well, here's one thing that I see consistently with a lot of guys, is they really don't know what it takes for them to be profitable. They don't know what their bottom line is. They don't know what their expenses are. They don't know what their payroll is. They don't know what their all their ancillary expenses are, like their insurance, their gas in their truck rental, and or not rental, but their truck payment. And so you've got to take all these into consideration and then figure out what your based on 40 hours, break it down into what your per hour cost of business is doing, and now add profit to that. And depending on what your cost per hour is, then you add your profit. Now, I know lots of guys that will go, well, I can do 20, I can do 30. I'm going to be real honest with you. If you can't run a 45 to 50% profit margin on your stuff, then it's going to cost you to do business, because there's going to be things that are going to be hidden, like mistakes and errors and broken stuff and redos. And so there's got to be room in there for all the stuff that you are might not consider. And then there's enough profit for you to fix it instead of getting mad and saying, or getting mad and walking off the job. Because I've seen a lot of guys do that. So this is where you basically want to be in this area, so that you can raise your prices so that you become more profitable. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story about Steve, a guy that I used to do a lot of business with, or work in the same line when I did a lot of new construction. Steve was a carpenter, an excellent carpenter. Matter of fact, he was a home builder, and then he moved to Florida, and he just did trim carpentry for his trade, and he was very good at it. Got a lot of business. One guy, and sometimes he had a helper, but most of it was by himself. And like I said, sometimes he did have a helper. But here's what happened. One day, Steve was working on this really huge house, big house, and he was there for a couple months. And every once in a while, a contractor, one of the other guys in the trades, would come by and take Steve for a walk out back and say, Steve, you need to raise your prices. You're too cheap. You're just too cheap. And basically what's happening is you're giving the rest of us bad names. You need to be up with us. Not that they were super expensive, but he needed to be up with the rest of the crowd. He didn't need to be cheap, because he really wasn't. His work was that good that he could raise his prices and not worry about it, but he lived in that fear mode like a lot of you guys do. So, and then this went on for a couple months. Every once in a while, one of the guys would come in and say, hey, Steve, they take him out back. They didn't beat him, but they take him out back and talk to him and say, hey, listen, you really need to raise your prices. You are too cheap. I don't even know how that you can live the way you live and pay the prices. Of course, I knew Steve lived in a mobile home, so he didn't have any expenses. But still, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to put money aside for days when you're slow. Come on, you're not going to be busy all your life. And no matter how good your funnel is, every once in a while, you're going to slow down a little. So it gets towards the end of the project. The homeowner is sitting down, making out Steve a check for his invoicing. And the homeowner looks at Steve square in the eye and says, Steve, I got to tell you, you do excellent work, but you're too cheap. And Steve goes, what? He says, you're too cheap. Steve goes, can I raise my prices? He goes, on the next job. So I want you to know that, it doesn't matter. It happens to everyone, the fear of raising prices, but really the customer knows when you're too cheap. And listen, this guy and all of our customers will take advantage of us as long as we're cheap. They're not going to say, you're too cheap. This guy was nice. But most of the people are not going to say, oh, you're too cheap. We don't want to do business with you because you're too cheap. But if you raise your prices, they're still going to continue to do business with you. Why? Because they're not dealing with you on a price basis. They're dealing with you on a relationship basis. And you need to keep that relationship going. And the relationship needs to make a profit. You need to make that profit. Okay, so here's another thing I want you to consider in your pricing And all the time, here I am stuttering because it really does make me stutter. Some of these things that some of the guys I come across go into price wars over their services. But here's what I want you to know: throughout the country, don't matter where you are, there is a shortage of legitimate licensed contractors in your trade. Granted, there are people coming up through the weeds that are cheap, inexperienced, unlicensed, but licensed contractors for the most part, there is a shortage throughout the country. But yet, even the licensed contractors have a tendency, for the most part, to fight amongst themselves all over price. Because, there we go, they're afraid of raising the prices. They're afraid of not getting the work. And you cannot grow a significant, viable business living in fear. It's just not going to happen. So just a quick overview, you're going to have to raise your prices. Well, in order for you to raise your prices so that you have to know what it's going to take for you to be profitable. Oh, because a lot of times we will lower our prices to compete on something, and when we get through, it's actually costs us business, costs us money to do business with that person. I want you to sit down. I want you to go through and figure out what are your overall expenses. Line item everything. It's real simple. Just take a piece of notepaper. Write down your expenses, your truck, all you know what they are. You should know what they are. Write them down. Figure that out. Per hour basis, then add 45 or 50% to it, and I want you to think about adding profit to your products that you are using. So if you're a carpenter, you upsell, you upprice, you got to go pick it up. So you either charge for picking it up by the hour, or you charge profit for the product. Same thing with you guys that are doing paint. You charge retail plus. You don't charge retail because you're buying at 20%, 20% discount. You need to charge retail plus a percentage of profit, or do your wholesale plus 45. I don't care. But there needs to be profit in everything you do, because that's the way business runs. Every other business runs that way. So raise your prices, become profitable. That's the only way that you're going to continue to survive, but you want to do more than survive in business. You want to grow. You want to exponentially grow. You want to grow your business. You may want to grow it into more employees or more service trucks or whatever the case may be, but in order to do that, you have to start at a point of what does it take for me to be profitable from day one, from the very beginning, and where do I move out from there? And don't play with those numbers, because always remember the price is the price is the price. And when you cut your price, you cut your profit. And then you have to figure out the numbers on what is it going to take to overcome that. So if you actually cut your price, and I'm going to cut off with this, if you cut your price by 10%, you have to sell 50% more to make up for that difference. Think about that. Just think about that the next time you want to give a discount. It's not the discount today, is what is it going to cost me to make up that profit tomorrow. So, hey, thanks for listening. I know that this is an item that a lot of you guys are afraid of doing. Just do it, implement it, and get it over with. And because, like I said, you need the profit in your bank account today. So go grow your business and build it the way you want to. Don't have it run you. You run your business. Again, I want to thank you for joining us and investing your time with us today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, go to iTunes and give us a shout out. You can also go to our website, www.contractorsecretweapon.com, and check out today's episode and leave us a comment in the bottom of the page. And if you haven't gotten your 15 secret weapon strategies to getting higher end customers, get it while you're at the website. Also, I want to thank again our sponsors for keeping this podcast alive, for your profit-making pleasure. And so go be profitable this week. Work smarter, not harder, and learn how to leverage your time and your knowledge so that you can be more profitable. Again, See you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Contractors Secret Weapon podcast with Dave Negri. We would love to hear your comments about this episode, so visit us online at www.contractorssecretweapon.com and let us hear your thoughts. If you are listening via iTunes, please leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive, the more other contractors will benefit from this show. Thank you, and see you next time here on the Contractors Secret Weapon podcast.